Hello and welcome to Hammer Time, a Hammer horror podcast, part of the Evolution of Horror Network. I'm Becky Darke, a film critic and Hammer fangirl, and I'm joined by my co-host, human encyclopedia of film and TV and Hammer superfan, Kevin Lyons. Hi, Kev.
Hi, Becky. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I feel that as two English podcasters, we should update everybody on the temperature situation.
It's vital. The world needs to know this.
It does. Last week, we were very warm. This week, literally a week on, it's raining. And
raining,
we're miserable
yeah.
that it's raining again.
Exactly. We're going to start moaning. It's too wet. It's too cold. I don't like it. It's forecast to go up again next week, and we'll be back here for recording next week because it's a bit bloody hot, isn't it? I don't like it.
Too hot. It's too...
Because
Amazing.
We're British. It's what we do.
In this podcast, Kevin and I are watching and discussing every horror film in Hammer's back catalogue. And this week we're in Russia with the incredible Christopher Lee as Rasputin, the Mad Monk from 1966.
Rasputin, the Mad Monk, history's man of mystery.
Our Hammer Time discussions are all spoilerific and we go into plot details and chat about the endings of the films. So if you'd like to watch Rasputin before you listen to this episode, it's available on VOD and on the Studio Canal Hammer Classics collection box set that we keep going on about. So Kev, this is something a little bit different, isn't it?
It is.
Because Rasputin isn't like a monster.
Sure.
Like Dracula or the Gorgon. And the film isn't based on literature like Sherlock Holmes or Captain Clegg. So where did the idea to do a Hammer horror film based on the real person Rasputin come from?
Well, the first question we need to ask is it really a horror film even? Some people would argue it isn't. So I'd say yes, it is. Fair. But it's, it's kind of borderline, but it definitely is.
Yeah.
But why Hammer decided to do Rasputin is not something I'm entirely sure I know the answer to be honest. He'd been a popular character in cinema. In fact, I was quite surprised while I was researching this to find out, and I really should have known this because I quite into Rasputin, the story of it. But the very first film to feature Rasputin was The Fall of the Romanovs, which was released in 1917, just a year after the real Rasputin's death. So he's been on screen since it happened, essentially. Since this story was actually taking place.
That's amazing.
It's incredible, isn't it? So
was that a Russian production or was it like a Hollywood production? Where did it come from?
I believe it was a Hollywood production, Herbert Brennan. Yeah, so I mean, it was, I think it's just because the character is one of those guys, a bit like Jack the Ripper. He's gone into sort of mythology.
Yeah, infamy.
Yeah, should we do the rest of it? Infamy.
They've all got it in for me.
Hey, there we go. We've got to do these. See, again, we're British. We can't help to. As soon as we hear the word infamy, we immediately go into that routine. Anyway.
Exactly that. And also producer Mike and Susan Cowman would never have forgiven us if we hadn't done the full quote. So.
Exactly. I can sense their disappointment now had we not done it. But no, I think because, these characters passed into kind of common folklore and became modern myths, modern legends, that they're quite valuable to a horror film producer like Hammer. Because, the story of Rasputin himself, he wasn't that sort of... he was a nasty person. He was a horrible human being. But there's no sort of fantasy, there's no horror as we would expect it from Hammer, but you can turn it into that. He's a very useful, manipulatable character. As well as manipulating others, we can manipulate him in our fictions. And he becomes a really interesting horror character, I think.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good point. You've kind of got such an interesting bare bones, haven't you, of the actual history, right? What actually happened.
Yeah.
And as you say, the sort of folkloric elements, there's definitely going to be stuff that will have been exaggerated and possibly even bold-faced made up, down over the years. And it is a story, and he is a character that definitely lends itself to I don't know, sprinkling a little more kind of occultism, etc., over the top of it, actual supernatural goings on potentially, and then all of a sudden, you've got a Hammer horror film, right?
Indeed. What Hammer do here, they amplify the sort of his supposed hypnotic qualities. Mm-hmm. That in real life he was supposedly a very charismatic man. People believe he had hypnotic powers over the Tsarina and various others. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that he did. But hey, we don't need evidence. We're going to make a horror film. And so let's have that as a sort of his overriding character trait. He's literally hypnotic, like Dracula. Yes. He's literally hypnotic. He can put women under his spell just by staring into their eyes. And, who else could carry that off but Christopher Lee? So perfect. Well, exactly. Casting that. So, but also
perfect casting.
Also, you got the whole sort of mythology about how did he die?
Yeah.
This idea that it took sort of multiple attempts to see him off. I mean, wasn't he beaten, stabbed, poisoned? Didn't they set fire to him at one point? And they just couldn't kill him. He just kept going. He just he's a bit like sort of an early template for the Terminator.
Yeah.
That, he just will not stop, and you've got to really go some to kill him. And we see a little bit of that here as well.
The other one that it really reminded me of is Vigo from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of Rasputin in Vigo, I have to say, yes.
There's that amazing, I think it's from Ray, that amazing speech. He's been doing his research and he rattles off all the ways that they had to kill Vigo before they could actually off him. I'm sure that was influenced by the Rasputin story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those myths, isn't it? We all heard it in childhood at some point. We can't remember where we first heard it. Did we hear it in a film? Did we hear it in a television programme? Did we read it in a book? We can't remember, but it's always been part of our sort of mythology, our background. This larger-than-life character who has become scarier with every telling of his story.
Yes, exactly.
Every time someone does it again, he becomes a scarier character. So, yeah. It's a good one. It's a good fit for Hammer.
Definitely. Well, let's have a look at the plot of the movie. Sorry.
Go on, Becky, pull yourself together.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, God, we're going to get in trouble getting you through to the end of this one, aren't we?
Okay. There lived a certain man in Russia long ago. He was big and strong, in his eyes a flaming glow. Most people look at him with terror and with fear, but to Moscow chicks, he was such a lovely... Oh, no, sorry, that's the Boney M lyrics. Apologies. Sorry.
That's very unfair, because the notes you gave me have your notes on what you're going to say here. You haven't written that down. I'm thinking, She's gone off piste. Something's gone wrong. What's happening?
Look, just be grateful I didn't sing it.
Well played, Becky. Well played. I like that very much indeed.
Thank you. Here's the actual plot of the movie. Rasputin, a crazed and debauched monk, saves a woman's life and then wreaks havoc in the local inn, chopping off the hand of one of the locals. Exiled by the church for his sins, the evil Rasputin works his power over a beautiful woman who serves at the Tsar's palace, and even the Tsarina herself is seduced by his evil ways. As Rasputin's influence begins to dominate government policy, there is only one course of action left: to destroy him before he destroys them all.
Ooh.
I know.
It's a good story, isn't it? I mean, it is a good story.
It is.
To be fair.
Now, you have said that, Kevin Lyons, with a little bit of hesitation and reticence in your voice. So please tell me, what do you think of Rasputin the Mad Monk?
I think it's okay. I don't dislike it. Mm-hmm. But it's not quite as good as I would have wanted a Hammer version of Rasputin to be.
Okay.
We'll talk about this as we go along, but it was quite compromised during production.
Okay, that's interesting.
Lots of scenes were cut. Maybe we'll get time to explain why as we go along. But it kind of, for me, it doesn't have the big epic sweep that I would expect this story to have.
Okay, yeah.
It's set against the backdrop of the First World War, which never gets mentioned. the Tsar is off fighting in the war. That's why we never see him. But it never gets mentioned.
Never gets mentioned, yeah.
The revolution is about to happen a couple of years later. So, revolutionary thoughts are fomenting in Russia at this time. And it's like, we get none of that. We don't see anything. We don't really see the Tsar's court, apart from some stock footage from a film, the title of which I forget, which they use at one point to just set the scene. But we never get that kind of, for me, the epic scale that I wanted from this kind of story.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually.
I can enjoy it for what it is. It's a really beautifully made film, which we'll talk about how gorgeous it looks later on. And it has two outstanding performances in it, which is usually enough to get me through almost anything. So I kind of, with expectations suitably lowered, I was kind of enjoying it as I was watching. I was enjoying it more this time. Whether it's a film I really want to come back to ever again, I'm not so sure.
Interesting.
There's a lot of Hammer films I would come back to time and time and time again. This, maybe I would, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? It's one of those kind of films. I think Christopher Lee actually sort of hits the nail on the head here. He said the film gave no sense of court life or life in the city streets. It did, however, capture something of the peasants in the country. Now, that's interesting because I wish maybe they'd lent more into that. We'd seen everything from ground level, as it were.
Yeah.
Maybe not had the Tsarina at all, just seen it as from the point of view of the local peasants sort of watching these monumental things.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that would have been, for me, personally, a more interesting film. I don't dislike it. I enjoyed watching it last night when I watched it again for this. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not an awful film by any means. Oh boy, we got some awful ones coming up on the horizon. I looked at our schedule and thought, oh yeah, here we go. They're on the horizon now, aren't they? But we got some true stinkers coming up. This is nothing like those, I can assure you. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't quite have that scale that I was hoping for, perhaps. Yeah. So,
I enjoyed it quite a lot, actually. And I think, so I don't know a huge amount about the Rasputin story. And the kind of Russian Revolution is a bit of a glaring omission in my historical knowledge as well. So I don't know a huge amount about this period.
Sure.
And just kind of going in pretty blind, in terms of, the context, and also not really knowing much about the film itself. I was like, right, let's see what this is all about. And I don't know why I enjoyed it quite as much as I did. But Kevin, I can't stop thinking about it.
Come on, Becky, let's be honest with the ladies and gentlemen here, shall we? We know why you like this film. And he's 6 foot, whatever he was. And he's a charismatically handsome man, and he's brilliant in this. So let's be honest with the ladies and gentlemen, shall we?
Yeah, okay. Christopher Lee is really, really sexy, and I'm not usually into sort of dishevelled old Russian monks, but there's something about Christopher Lee as Rasputin. I don't know what happened, but I was like, all right, I'm picking up what you're putting down, mate. Like this is hot. And I don't know that is a necessarily popular or common opinion, but I was into it. I enjoyed it quite a lot for that reason. And then also, a lot of the other stuff that you said, like it looks amazing.
Sure.
Christopher Lee's performance as Rasputin is fucking incredible.
Stunning. Yeah.
Forget what he looks like and what he's saying. The actual performance is amazing. And I can only assume when you talk about a couple of incredible performances that the other one you're talking about is the wonderful Barbara Shelley.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Always will be. Every time we talk about her, she's going to be a major point of attraction for me in the film because she's so good. She's so good.
You've talked throughout this series quite a lot about those certain performers who will turn up and you'll sort of go, okay. We're going to be all right. This is going to be good. And for me, over the last few films, Barbara Shelley has just absolutely become that person. And she plays a very different character again here. So it was really nice to see her kind of, I don't know, stretching some different muscles, I guess. Like, I thought she was great.
A lot of people will tell you that Ingrid Pitt is the Queen of Hammer, and I'm here to tell you I'm having none of that. None of that. Barbara Shelley was the Queen of Hammer.
Yeah.
She was just so good in every one of her films, even the films that aren't all that great. Shadow of the Cat. Mm-hmm. It was okay, but it wasn't anything special. She was extraordinary in it.
Yeah.
She was amazing. She was one of those actresses who would turn up, and it didn't matter how silly the script appeared to her, she would give 101% and never give any indication that she was doing this one for the kids or something.
No, absolutely.
This one, every performance is heartfelt and committed. So
imagine if she was doing Rasputin as the one for the kids.
Well, I mean, actually didn't have any kids as far as I know, but yeah, Rasputin. Sit down, little ones. Here we go. He's Russia's greatest love machine.
Exactly.
Cast your eyeballs on this one. You're going to love this. This won't scar you at all.
So we've got Anthony Hines back as writer, Don Sharp back as director. And you were saying just then, Kev, that Christopher Lee sort of said that the film didn't really capture the vibe of the Russian court. But, not to disagree with the great man, but to me, there is something that Anthony Hines and Don Sharp managed to capture that makes this at least feel different to the Gothics we've seen from Hammer before. There's a vibe about it that just, it definitely feels removed to me from the ones that are set like in a castle in the Carpathians or in a little village in Cornwall or whatever. Like, they've managed to do something for me to kind of create that vibe.
I don't mean this to sound disparaging, but to me it always feels a little bit like the BBC always have this fantastic reputation for those Sunday night historical drama series. Always really good adaptations of classic novels and stuff.
Oh my God, are you going to say this one feels like an ITV one?
No, not at all. I'm going to say I'm going to say it feels like a BBC one when the BBC actually had a budget.
Okay.
I mean, this wasn't a huge budget by any means, but by BBC standards, this was, this was up there with sort of studio pictures. But it has that kind of feel to it. It has that feel of a sort of historical epic. That just has a bit of horror in it. We're going to see this again far less successfully in Countess Dracula, which is much more of a kind of historical drama, but with a bit of horror thrown in.
Oh, okay.
I think this one does kind of throw the horror in from the sides, as it were. It's not inherent in the story, but they handle it a lot better. Yeah. I think. And I think we should very briefly give a shout out to the composer, Don Banks, who his score it's got that beautiful epic feel to it. I wished the rest of the film had lived up to both Christopher Lee's performance and Don Banks' sweeping score. Is that it had the money to sort of make the visuals look as good as it sounds and the acting, belonged. It would have been magnificent. It would have been absolutely top of the tier. As it is, it's very good. I enjoyed it. It's just lacking a little something, I think, for me.
Yeah, sure. Again, having never been to the Russian court, I can't say how authentic the feel of it is. But
to be fair, how many times have you been to a Carpathian castle?
Look, you don't know everything about my past, Kevin Lyons.
I'm beginning to realise this as episodes go on. I'm getting really scared. Really scared, I'll be honest with you.
How much similarity does the film bear to the reality of Rasputin's story as we know it? I mean, you said that you're quite a fan, or you've always been quite interested in the story. And I'd love to hear what you think about it, kind of from that viewpoint. As I say, don't know a lot, and so I've done a bit of research, but it appears to me from my brief read down the Wikipedia page that they've taken quite a lot.
Unfortunately, they've abandoned quite a lot as well. So it's incredibly close to the true story in the sense where it's got a Russian guy called Rasputin in it. The rest of it, not so much. And there's a reason for that. There is actually a very good reason for that. Not just the budget, but, actual proper pragmatic reasons. Rasputin didn't die in real life in the way that he dies here. But spoiler alert, if you're one of those strange people who haven't watched the episode yet, brace yourself, because we're going to talk about spoilers as we go along. But in the film, Rasputin gets thrown out of a window and onto an icy moat. That didn't happen. He was very hard to kill, apparently, but that's more cinematic. That was a requirement of the big screen rather than real life.
Yeah, I think he got shot and fell into a snowbank or something, didn't he?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. So they actually have this much bigger version, which again is compromised. We'll talk about that later on. But the story, they had to change it a little bit. There was a threat or an implication of legal action hanging over Hammer. They'd received a letter from the family of Prince Felix Yusupov.
Oh my God, I was really, really hoping you were going to be like from the Rasputin estate.
Oh God, yeah, he was a poor monk. He didn't have an estate. Good Lord, what are you talking about, woman? No, he's Prince Felix Yusupov. Now he was a guy who, Prince Felix was the guy who stabbed Rasputin, but the family were not happy about the way he'd been presented in previous films. And in fact, they tried to sue MGM in 1935 when they made the Princess... sorry, what was it called? I can't remember. It's Princess Natasha had sort of got involved as well. She was a real character. She's one of the Tsar's children. Right. And it was Rasputin the Empress. That was it. And their families had tried to sue MGM for misrepresentation of characters. Princess Natasha made the not unreasonable demand that they apologise because she never actually met Rasputin. Although in the film she has an affair with him, if I remember right. So, he was playing fast and loose with history. And I think Tony Hines would have been aware of this. Certainly when a letter arrives saying, we are members of the family, we will be watching. And we have a whole team of lawyers here. And, believe us, we're not royalty anymore. The revolution has long since happened, but we have money and power and influence, so behave yourselves. Yeah. And I kind of get the impression that when Hammer saw the letter, their immediate thought was, let's not do it. Let's just, tread carefully. Let's not make it. But it was too far down the road for that.
Oh, wow.
This was, if you remember, one of those 4 films that they shot kind of back to back on the same sets.
Right.
You will recognise sets here from Dracula, Prince of Darkness, because they were shot back to back on the same sets with likely the same cast as well.
Yeah.
But they were already too far gone down the road with that. To have actually started again with something new would have slowed the whole process down, and the whole point was to save money. So
right. Yeah.
They just thought, rewrite it. In fact, Yusupov becomes the Ivan character.
Yes.
In this. So, it becomes... They change everything around a little bit. So, it's exaggeration, I think, is what Hammer would be guilty of here, if they were guilty of anything at all. They've taken the basic story. Yes, Rasputin was real. Yes, he did sort of, work his way into the family. He sort of healed one of the children. He worked his way into the affections of Tsarina. He was a horny little bugger, to say the least. So he was shagging everything that was moving, basically. So all of that was real. All that was happening. But Hammer it's almost paradoxical. They strip it right back for budget reasons and then exaggerate a load of the stuff that they've kept.
Right.
So they exaggerate the hypnotism. They exaggerate just how charismatic he was. It's like, I don't think in real life that Rasputin was that charismatic. By modern standards, if you could revive Rasputin and send him out on a Saturday night in the West End of London, he'd just get laughed at like they laugh at his dancing in this film.
I don't know, West End maybe, send him out in Shoreditch, I reckon people would love him.
Oh, yeah, Shoreditch, the next morning everybody would be copying his style, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
He was the original hipster, was our Rasputin. Yes, yeah, Boney M didn't mention that, did they? But yes, it's close enough to the story. It's close enough to the facts that we kind of remembered from childhood, perhaps. The sketchier version of the story that we'd heard when we were kids. I think if you were a serious historian, and I'm not a serious historian of Russian history, obviously, but I think if you were, then I think you'd probably be banging your head on the television screen after about 10 minutes of this, because it isn't, but it was never meant to be.
Right.
It was never meant to be.
It's not a biopic, is it?
It's not a documentary. If you want a documentary, there's plenty of them about. Go and watch them. There are probably loads on streaming services. He's still a very popular character. This was an entertaining pseudo-horror film, and that was what they were setting out to make. So whether they got the facts right or not almost seems irrelevant in a way. Did they tell a good story? Yeah, they did. It was let down by a lack of resources. But yeah, they told a good story. That'll do for me.
Let's talk about, oh my God, Christopher Lee as Rasputin.
Would you like me to leave you two alone for a little while again?
No, I'm fine. I'm going to be very grown up.
No, you're not. You've never been bloody grown up, Becky.
I'm not. I don't know why I said that. Really.
Neither of us have ever grown up, and that's why we do what we do, let's be honest.
I was literally, honestly, I was out with some friends at the weekend, like old friends, kind of school friends who I haven't seen for ages. And I haven't really seen them since I started professionally for my full-time job being a film person, a film critic, whatever you want to call me.
Yeah.
And I was at the bar with one of them, and we were sort of talking about, careers and jobs and stuff. She's got a very proper grown-up job. And she said to me, well, yeah, but your job, I mean, you're not really adulting, are you? I was like, excuse me. I said, I work 7 days a week for absolute pittance, and you're telling me that I'm not properly adulting. She said, well, yeah, but like, you love your job. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. I guess if you...
It's one of those things I sometimes think when I watch people performing. I've recently been watching Rick Mayer and Adrian Edmondson in Bossum. And I'm kind of watching them and thinking, you can't call that work, boy. You're having far too much fun to call that work. You really are. But then why shouldn't we enjoy our work? And to be honest, if someone has said to me, you're not really adulting, are you? I'd have probably embraced them and said, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're right. I mean, I think I did eventually take it as a compliment after the initial umbrage.
It's just, people are just jealous when they can't do the fun stuff like watch movies all day and things. Anyway, we digress. We digress. Let's talk about Christopher Lee, who perhaps could also have been accused of not adulting, considering the amount of fun he looks like he's having here playing Rasputin. Isn't he just? And Don Sharp was absolutely blown away by his performance. A lovely quote. He said, it was a lovely performance, wasn't it? He was very enthusiastic about it. We had to spend a little time together up front, working out how we were going to do all those hypnosis sequences. But once we'd worked out how to do them, things went fine. He was tremendous, so magnetic in it.
Yeah, that's it. And
absolutely right.
And when you talk about, Hammer kind of playing up the real Rasputin's kind of charisma, his potential, sort of hypnotic eyes and all of that kind of thing, that magnetism that Christopher Lee brings to the role is spot on, right? I mean, that is exactly what you need. And it was no good them making Rasputin look like, I don't know, James Dean, right? And we'll come on to talk about, the look of the character, because there's some incredible hair and beard work going on. But, so people, for a real character from history, people know that actually one of the most, well-known things about Rasputin is the way he looked, right? That kind of long black hair.
There were lots of photographs of him,
Exactly. Those heavy brows, those dark eyes, the big beard. So like I say, you can't make Christopher Lee look like Christopher Lee or like some, sort of handsome Hollywood man. You have to make him look like this. And so you need the magnetism from the performance to make it believable that all of these women are falling in love with him.
Of course.
And that he's having such influence over these powerful people, etc.
I mean, in fairness, I had a head start because it was Christopher Lee, and we've already seen in this episode what Christopher Lee does to you. And I know that a lot of my women friends feel exactly the same way. It's like, it's Christopher Lee. It's like he had that kind of aura about him anyway. That incredible. He's one of those guys. I mentioned before that I met him. And, even the blokes in the room couldn't take their eyes off him. And this is when he was a much older man. Because he had more than just the looks. He had something extra.
Oh, Trust me, when I stalked him round the book section of Harrods that one time, he was definitely in his later years. Firstly, I don't know who his stylist was, but he looked incredible.
Yes.
He had the most amazing outfit on. And secondly, like, I mean, I just very creepily did that sort of, that thing out of comedy films where I would sort of like, run down an aisle in the book section and sort of pick up a book and pretend to read it and then sort of peer over the top of it at him. But again, all he was doing was walking around having a look at the bookshelves, and you couldn't deny it from him, right? He just had that even when he wasn't performing. It was amazing.
He used to come into a shop that I worked in many years ago to do signings, do private signings upstairs. He used to sign lots of stuff. And he'd just coming through the front door of the shop, and he'd just go, "Morning, gentlemen." And we're all just like, "Hi, boss. Hi. That's great. I can go home now. I've done my day's work." Because nothing I do today is going to get any better than Christopher Lee walking in and saying, "Morning, gentlemen," in that voice. It's like,
"Morning, gentlemen."
And he has that charisma, and he's in every single one of his performances. But this, I think, was one of those roles he was kind of born to play. He said that he felt at the time that Rasputin was my best played role. And I wonder if that's because he realised that it's just everything that he was so good at, he could pour into this one character.
I think that is it. Yeah.
It's a super... Yeah. In a technical sense, possibly this is even better than Dracula. But, Dracula would always be my go-to thing with Christopher Lee. But in a technical sense, maybe this is better than that. He's channeling some of Dracula.
Well, he absolutely is. Yeah, as you were saying earlier, with the kind of hypnotic eyes.
That's right, yeah.
I guess with Rasputin, like, Dracula, iconic, everybody knows that. But with Rasputin, he's just got so much more to do. Like, there's so much more energy to it, I guess.
Yeah.
He's a very much a vital living being as Rasputin. He drinks, he dances, he shags,
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of, he's manipulating people to kind of get himself into the most, kind of privileged position in the empire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, like right there in the court next to the Tsarina. And so there's just so much life to him, whereas intrinsically to Dracula, although he is, the most famous vampire of all time and he's extremely charismatic and all of those things, he is still essentially a dead thing. Right?
Yeah,
whereas Rasputin is so vital.
He's full of life, isn't he? You've probably a little bit too much life, to be honest. That's why maybe that's why they found it difficult to kill him. But it's the kind of role I think it would have been so easy to ham it up.
Right.
To just go a little bit over the top. And he doesn't, because Lee was far too good for that. He takes it right to the edge sometimes, but he gets the tone absolutely bang on.
Yeah.
It's absolutely perfect. And, he's said for years, as I said in the episode a couple of weeks ago, that, he claimed he refused to speak the dialogue given to him in Dracula, Prince of Darkness, when it turns out there was no dialogue. And in a way, I can kind of see why now, perhaps, because he gets so many good lines in this one. It's like, yeah, come on, Chris, you can't complain too much. You just have to turn up and be scary in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. You can get all the good dialogue here.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to really, really, really go to town and be quite verbose.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. So we hear a lot of that incredible voice throughout this one.
The dancing, is that Christopher Lee, or did they have a dancing double? Because obviously it's set in Russia, so you've got a lot of the kind of Russian traditional style dancing.
Sure.
In the bars and stuff when he's pissed and he's sort of carousing around with the women. Do you know if that was him?
I didn't stop to check whether Christopher Lee himself claimed that it was him. I would have no doubt that he did claim it was him, but it wasn't. They did have a double. There are behind the scenes photographs of a double doing the dancing.
Well, they keep doing that brilliant thing that you do when people have dance doubles, where they'll have a shot of his feet doing all the intricate stuff, and then it will do a wide shot and he's just sort of like prancing around a little bit.
That's right,
simply with a great big grin on his face. I mean, it's still brilliant, but I did wonder.
Or you get close-ups from the shoulders up where he's just jiggling his shoulders a little bit, and he's
exactly.
vaguely in time with what's going on down with the feet department, which was done by a professional dancer. Christopher Lee was a man of a great many talents. I mean, he's just sickening how talented that man was, he He could sing, he could act, he could write, he could do all sorts of stuff. Dancing, I don't think, was one of them.
Okay.
And so, no, they got in. I should have looked up who it was, but they did get in a professional dancer for those scenes.
Yeah. Before we move on from Christopher Lee, I do want to just focus on Frida Steiger's hairstyling.
Yes.
Because, again, if we're talking iconic, like, you need to recreate what Rasputin looked like. And the hair and beard on this man in this film are so good.
Many, many years later, he recorded a heavy metal album, Christopher Lee. And this was...
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. He recorded, and I'm just going to look him up now, because I can't remember who the band was.
How am I learning this now?
Yes, in his 60s, he recorded an album, the Charlemagne albums, sort of concept albums about the Emperor Charlemagne. And he also did an EP called Metal Night, which was about Don Quixote. He did a heavy metal Christmas.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
With a single Jingle Hell, which reached number 18 on the Billboard charts in America.
I am sorry. This is an incredible development in my life.
Well, yeah, there you go. You see, he did. In fact, he won a Spirit of Metal Award at the 2010 Metal Hammer Golden God ceremony for the Charlemagne by the Sword and the Cross album, and it was presented to him by none other than the god of heavy metal, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath.
Oh, for God's sake.
So, I mean, yeah, this was a man that could do anything, and he perfected his heavy metal look in this film.
Yes, he did.
By the time he recorded the albums, he was a white-haired old man. He wasn't able to pull that look off perhaps anymore, but he got it, and that was it. He worked with Man of War and Rhapsody of Fire as well. So he had a bit of a thing going. I don't know whether he was a fan of heavy metal or just, heavy metal bands were fans of his, perhaps. I don't know. But either way, he had quite a career as a heavy metal singer.
Well, thank you for introducing me to my next rabbit hole that I'm about to fall down.
You hear that clicking sound? That's Becky on Discogs as we speak, looking up copies.
Yeah.
But he has that look, doesn't he? He has the look of a sort of a proto-heavy metal sort of guy in this film, that sort of straggly hair and the beard and the menacing look, and you do wonder, did a lot of metal bands base their look on Rasputin and therefore by accident on Christopher Lee? Who knows?
There's something quite explicitly kind of satanic about his look as well, isn't there? Yeah. Especially as he sort of becomes more and more evil. He moves from the black into that kind of red, shiny cassock.
Yeah.
The characters are always sort of saying, always referring to him, as, he's the devil, and they definitely lean into that in his look. I don't know how prone the real Rasputin was into wearing kind of crimson satin, but it works here for sure.
It does. And there's a terrific shot, isn't there? If I remember right, it's in the sequence where Sonia, played by Barbara Shelley, who's being rejected by Rasputin. We'll come back to this scene in a moment because it's incredible. But there's this shot where Rasputin just throws his arms open in a kind of messianic stance, and the lighting is all from below.
Yes.
And my God, that's as scary as Christopher Lee looked outside of a Dracula film, I think.
Yeah.
He looks genuinely terrifying in that one moment. You get the sort of real sense of his physicality and the madness that's kind of gripping Rasputin at this point.
Definitely. And also the kind of glee and amusement that he's getting from kind of torturing poor Sonia,
Oh, yeah. I mean, the man's a sadist.
Yeah.
He's getting a sexual thrill from the humiliation and the hurt that he's inflicting on others.
Yeah.
He's not a nice guy. When you said that, he's not a monster film like, the other ones, it kind of is. It kind of is. Yeah. one of Hammer's human monsters and perhaps one of their best.
I would say so. So let's have a chat about the rest of the cast.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, we've got Barbara Shelley as Sonia Vasilyevna. And she is, I love that she is introduced as this very kind of free and quite fun-loving woman, right? So we first introduced to her, there's this kind of foursome. So we've got Sonia, played by Barbara Shelley. We've got her brother Peter, played by Dinsdale Landon. We've got Ivan, played by Francis Matthews. Love Francis Matthews.
Oh, love Francis Matthews.
And Vanessa, played by Susan Farmer. And they are all at a party. Sonia is bored, right? And this is how we kind of learn a little bit about her character. She's bored at this very sort of upper class ball, I guess.
Yeah.
And she wants to go and hang out at this sort of rowdy bar. Yeah. And she gets to the rowdy bar. She convinces them all to go with her. She gets to the rowdy bar, immediately orders vodka, starts necking this vodka, even though everybody's given her a bit of a side eye and sort of warning her against it. And this is how she first kind of encounters Rasputin, because he's also there separately, getting drunk. He's challenged this Dr. Boris Zargo, played by Richard Pascoe, to a drinking challenge. And, Rasputin drinks him under the table, gets up and starts dancing, and Sonia, because she's had one too many voddies, is sort of laughing, and he takes offense to this and comes over and says to her, you will apologize for laughing at me.
You will come to me and apologize.
You will come to me and say you are sorry.
Yeah. I think it's important that he wants her to come to him, so he's on his turf.
Yes,
he's on his ground. He's in control of this.
Very much so. And so the next day, poor Sonia, under his kind of thrall, again, very Dracula, goes round to his apartment, except it's not his apartment. No. He is hilariously just moved in with Dr. Boris.
Yes, that's right, yes.
After getting him drunk and carrying him home, and now he's just just set up home in his flat.
He's like one of those people you meet sometimes where you just can't get rid of them, I have been that person on more than one occasion. One memorable occasion, I woke up after one of those nights out in an unfamiliar flat, lying face down on a sofa. A young couple come in, say, hey, Kev, it was a good night, wasn't it? Yeah, great, want some breakfast? Lovely. Yeah, to this day, I've no idea who they were. I'd obviously just latched onto them at some point during my drunken binge, and they'd sort of taken pity on me, taken me home, a little bit like, sort of for old Dr. Zargo taking in Rasputin. And rather than try and manipulate them, I just passed out on their sofa. So.
I love it. It reminds me a bit of one of the episodes of Inside Number 9 as well, where Reece Shearsmith's character takes in Steve Pemberton's character, who's he's a homeless man.
Yeah.
And then he sort of takes over and then totally adopts his kind of personality.
That's right.
I just feel so sorry for Boris in this film. All he wanted to do was go out and have a drink. He's ended up with this bloke living in his house.
I mean, there's no way he'll get rid of him, because, Rasputin, it's not his house anymore. It's Rasputin's house, and Rasputin is just, because it amuses him, he's just allowing the doc to stay there.
And he sort of starts sending him out on errands and stuff. So
that's right,
Sonia comes round because she's been told to. And, she apologises. And this is where he, tells her to get on her knees and all of that kind of thing. And I'm like, sorry. And he's like, Boris, go out and get some drink and some food. And then gets her into bed, Kev. She takes all her...
Within seconds.
She takes all her clothes off and gets into bed.
Yes. Oh, yes. She's already quite horny in this one. In Dracula, Prince of Darkness, it takes Christopher Lee's character to bring out her, to throw off her repression. In this one, he enables her repression.
He's very much pushing on an open door with Sonia, isn't he?
He is. I mean, Sonia is up for it right from the start. I think the thing that sums up Sonia is right at the very beginning of that little meeting they're having at the party, and she's bored. When she mentions the pub, I think it's Francis Matthews says, oh, it's a terrible place. Everybody gets drunk and starts fighting. And she goes, oh, that sounds wonderful. And you think, yeah, we know what kind of woman you are now. This is great. This is excellent. We didn't quite expect her, I think, to dive into bed with Rasputin quite so quickly. And this raises the question, of course, did she do it voluntarily? Did she do it of her own free will?
She absolutely... Look, I'm not saying that she wouldn't have done it voluntarily, but I am saying that in this case she definitely doesn't, because he's definitely already hypnotised her.
Oh, yeah. Which is quite an unpleasant thing, really, isn't it? And it's like, but I think, the character is already very different to the one in Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Big time, yeah.
Although she has a Dracula, Prince of Darkness moment. No wonder maybe because they'd seen how good she was in that when she goes completely feral, when she's captured by Father Shandor. There's a moment where Rasputin, being Rasputin, has had his fill of her. Mm-hmm. He's not interested in her anymore. He's got what he wanted from her. He's got access to the court. Exactly. Be off with you. I'm done with you. And she's not taking that lying down. And they get into this most incredible fight.
In that noise she makes, Kev.
Yeah.
When he first says to her, I'm done with you. I don't want to see you anymore. Yeah. It is this wail of
That's right.
anguish.
Yep.
I mean, it sent chills through me. I mean, we've all been dumped, Sonia. Come on.
Yeah. But she was so besotted with this guy.
It's incredible.
It is. It's this sort of a wail of anguish and despair, isn't it? It's really quite awful. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that Barbara Shelley was an absolute trooper during that sequence. She suffered a blow to her head.
Oh.
She was supposed to have been caught by Christopher Lee during one sequence, and he kind of fumbled, not his fault, total accident, and she fell and cracked her head on the floor.
Ouch.
And being the trooper that she is, or was, she said, no, come, we'll do it again. She did it again, and this time she fell, displaced her coccyx, and spent the rest of the shoot in severe pain.
Oh my God.
Now, if you can watch this film and find me one scene where Barbara Shelley appears to be in severe pain, I will pay you good money, because she was so professional, you don't see it at all. Ever.
God.
I mean, what a trooper. What an absolute trooper.
And
that's why she's the Queen of Hammer, you see. This is why.
You're so right to call it back to the moment in Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
We talked about with such admiration, in that episode.
Yep.
Because she goes even more feral in this. That fight scene between those two, I mean, in some ways, I'm not surprised she got hurt.
It's brutal, isn't it? It's really... It's a sort of fight scene you would expect to see in the contemporary James Bond films, not in a Hammer film. It's really sort of no holds barred, slugging it out between the two, between a man and a woman. You didn't see that in films normally. But she gives as good as she gets in this. She's really quite ferocious.
Well, I was going to say this as part of the favourite moments chat at the end.
I was trying to avoid mentioning that bit because I know you want to talk about that later.
I'm going to talk about it now.
Can't talk about it now. Come on then.
Boris had me dying during this bit because as Rasputin and Sonia are having this really feral, very, very physical punch up, really, as she's sort of attacking him and he's attacking her back and all of this. Boris... it's like, because it's in his lab, because he's a doctor, right? And so it's in his lab and he keeps moving all the beakers out of their way so they don't get smashed. And he's sort of skipping out of the way and sort of moving all this stuff. At one point he says, don't knock that one, it's acid, which comes back later, a bit of foreshadowing.
Right. A bit of foreshadowing.
Honestly, it's this incredible contrast between this really kind of heartbreaking and brutal moment for this poor woman and this absolute bastard Rasputin, while Boris is doing this beautifully played, almost kind of comic relief moment. I thought it was so good.
I like the way that when he starts moving them, it's fairly small beakers until eventually he goes up to one that he's kind of hugging close to it because it's so big. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more out of control, And it's a really weird moment because, that fight scene is so ferocious. Maybe you just needed that little bit of something just to distract us away a little bit from how nasty this fight was getting.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, like for me, as I say, the balance really worked. I thought it was great.
It's a terrific scene. Yeah.
I think Richard Pascoe's great as Boris. He goes on a real journey in this film. At first, he's this kind of slightly humiliated doctor. You know, he's obviously been doing something a bit dodgy. He's been struck off. He's out, you know, just sort of carousing and getting drunk with his mate. Then he's sort of on the real down and outs after Rasputin sort of starts taking advantage of him. And then, you know, he pushes him one step too far. And then Boris really kind of steps up at the end of the film and sort of, I don't know, has a bit of he sort of makes up for it all in some ways, has a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah, there's a bit of a redemption for him at the end, I think. He's an alcoholic, he's down on his luck, he's not having a great time. And I think at the end he has a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
When he begins to realise just what a monster Rasputin is.
Yeah.
And what could happen if they don't stop him. If this is what he's like now, what would he be like if he actually got his hands on the rudder, as it were? He actually had direct control of the country. What would he do?
Right.
So, yeah, there's that lovely sort of moment towards the end where you can see almost the light switching on, can't you? It's kind of like really nicely played by Richard Pascoe, I think.
It's really nice. Like he does that beautiful physical thing that is used a lot by actors, and I always find very effective. So simple. He just kind of straightens his posture slightly.
That's right.
But
yeah.
He's gone from this very sort of slightly dishevelled and sad figure to, as you say, I mean, redemption is the perfect word for it. I mean, he just sort of, you know, he straightens himself both kind of physically and metaphorically, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. And we'd seen Richard Pascoe before. He was Paul Heitz in The Gorgon. And so he was no stranger to...
Of course he was.
And he was really good in that. And I think he's really good here as well. I think he gets a little bit sort of overshadowed by some of the other performances because it's not a major part of the film. Mm-hmm. For most of the running time, he's kind of a supporting character, but he's really good. And did it occur to you maybe, or just my weird thinking, he's Dr. Boris Zargo, Dr. Zargo, Dr. Zhivago.
Oh!
Do you think? Maybe? I don't know. The film was, I think, out just before this started shooting, or it was in production, coming towards the end of production at the time they started shooting this. So I wonder, you know, was there a little in-joke?
Potentially,
on Tony Hines' part. Yeah, we can't have Dr. Zhivago, but we'll have Dr. Zargo instead. Yeah, it's an unusual name, so I just wondered, you know, maybe. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, pretty close. So then we've got kind of the other players, let's call them. So we've got Sonia's brother, Peter, played by Dinsdale Landon, as I said earlier. His sort of best mate, Ivan, and Vanessa, who is kind of the other lady in waiting to the Tsarina, because obviously what Rasputin uses Sonia for, as well as a bit of hanky-panky, is his doorway into the court, right, into the Tsarina's kind of affections, because after he's bonked her, he puts this sort of hypnotic idea into her mind that when she is looking after the little boy, Alexei, he is to befall an accident. And so she sort of makes that happen. He falls off. He sort of, you know, falls unconscious. The doctors in the court can't do anything about it. Sonia has this bright idea, in quotes. Oh, I know this guy who could come in and cure the boy, and he does, you know, etc. And Vanessa is the other lady in waiting. And these three kind of play this role, I guess, or these roles of pushing the story forward, I guess, sort of from the outside, because you've got Peter, who is very concerned about his sister. Yeah. You've got Ivan, who Peter keeps sort of confiding in and sort of imploring to him to sort of help him do something about it. Whereas Ivan is very reticent to do that. And there's a wonderful bit of dialogue that I loved where Peter says, well, we're going to have to destroy him. And Ivan says, well, you mean murder? And Peter says, no, assassinate.
Yes.
And Ivan says, well, I don't see that there's any difference between murder and assassination. I thought that was amazing.
That is really good, isn't it? The way we sort of sanitize sanctioned murder. If you just kill someone on the street, it's murder. If you kill someone for political purposes, it's an assassination. It's not. It's the same act. It's the same act. But yeah, that was a really clever, subtle bit of writing. You're absolutely right. That was beautiful.
I thought so. I thought it was quite satirical and really kind of. Yeah. And it also, it really sort of sets apart and adds just a bit more interest between these two characters, Peter and Ivan. They're both, they both want rid of Rasputin and to kind of save their women.
Right.
But, they've got these sort of very different kind of moral ideas about how it's possible to go about that. And I thought that was really lovely, actually. I thought that was sort of added a bit of richness to it all.
It does. I think as well that I keep labouring this point because we talked about this in Plague of the Zombies as well, but there's an element of Dracula in the characters here that Vanessa and Sonia are Lucy and Mina. Or Mina and Lucy, whichever way around you want to look at it. The two guys are Arthur or Quincy or John Seward or, any one of those characters.
Yeah.
Rasputin is Dracula, who comes in and sort of seduces one of the women.
Yeah.
And she has to be rescued by the men, but in this case, they don't succeed. He takes a much darker turn.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Vanessa, played by Susan Farmer, is because I think it's Vanessa that Rasputin's kind of eyeing up in the bar at the beginning, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's what they assume, isn't it? They say, they're because she's the married woman. I think, they would say, oh, look, he's eyeing up my wife, sort of thing. So it's kind of difficult to know. To be honest, I think Rasputin was such a git that he didn't care.
Yeah.
As long as one of these women was useful to him, he didn't care which one it was, to be perfectly honest.
But again, because he's such a git, he soon gets bored with the one that he's got and wants the other one.
Exactly, and wants the other one because, because men and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. No, that's absolutely right, yeah.
But Vanessa doesn't have a huge role to play. She almost sort of disappears in the second half of the film.
She does, and it almost feels like, well, we need you this extra woman in the film because it's there aren't that many women in the film. We've got Suzanne Farmer on hand because she'd been in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Let's have a part for her. And I think it kind of works better when you've got these two couples.
Yeah,
I think that works kind of nicely. That you've got these two couples that are sort of caught up in Rasputin's sort of web of nastiness, as it were,
Yeah, and it's nice to sort of have, the brother and the sister and then the best mate and his wife, and, that all feels quite organic.
And that's a very similar setup as well, isn't it, to Dracula, Prince of Darkness? So it's
very much so.
Not dissimilar at all. So I think it was it's kind of shorthand, it's kind of narrative shorthand in a lot of ways for who these people are. They can actually tell us who they are without having to go into long, convoluted backstories and stuff. It just works.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, she doesn't get much to do. I wish she had more to do because I think she's rather lovely and she's very good in this as she was in Dracula. And I think, she just probably deserved a little bit more than she gets here.
I agree with that. And I just think it's odd that she just does seem to disappear. Like nothing really happens to her. I'm
sure some clever person who does fan fiction could work a story in here because the barn at the beginning where Rasputin takes the innkeeper's daughter to seduce her is actually the hut that she gets dropped off at in Dracula Prince of Darkness, only to then go back on her own. So the complete detour, we commented on this, is a completely pointless detour. Maybe she was still in that hut. Maybe sort of Vanessa had gone down to the hut as well. She ended up there. So poor old Suzanne Farmer just ends up being shunted around from one place to another and ending up in this little shed somewhere, basically.
From castle to hut.
Yeah, and then back
to
again.
Russian court to hut.
Yeah, and then back again to Russian court. No, poor old Suzanne. She deserved better.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess the other main character to focus on is Renee Asherson as the Tsarina. Now, if you're looking at the real Rasputin story, as well as him kind of insinuating himself upon the court, one of the kind of rumours around it is that once the Tsar goes off to war, Rasputin and the Tsarina actually sort of had an affair, like a romantic affair.
That's right. Yeah.
And you don't really get that here, but what you do get is this idea of him being extremely kind of influential over her, and therefore potentially over, policy and the country or the empire as a whole. And I thought Renee Asherson was perfectly lovely as the Tsarina.
We should have seen a lot more of her. I mentioned earlier that she was quite a catch for Hammer because she was this veteran of stage and screen. She'd been around for a long time. She was quite a big name at the time. And her part was originally much bigger, but production started to fall behind schedule. And several scenes were cut with her taking the biggest hit, sadly. I read some claims somewhere, take this with a pinch of salt, but Hammer didn't actually own any of their films because, the copyrights were held by these big American companies who finance them, basically. And to get the footage from the 1958 Dracula for use in Prince of Darkness, they had to pay quite a lot of money. And that took a chunk of money out of the 2A films in this 4-film setup. And because they were running behind, and because of that, there just wasn't the money or the time or the resources. Don Sharp remembers, he said, Tony Hines came to me and said we were running over budget and asked for input on scenes that had to be cut to compensate. So we ended up losing a whole ballroom set and cutting scenes involving the Tsar's court. So, of course, the Tsarina, we just don't get to see as much of her. Apparently, Asherson was a little bit uncomfortable with the tone of the film. She didn't quite, she was from a slightly different generation there, I think, from certainly the younger actors. But she's very good. In the little bit we do get to see, she's very good. It's one of those things about the film where I wish they'd had a little bit more money so we could have seen more of her.
Yeah, agreed.
That we could have seen Rasputin working his evil magic with her. Sort of like insinuating himself not only into the household, but into her affections as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, as we know from Boney M, he was lover of the Russian Queen. So
indeed, he did. And when I come to my study of Russian history and politics, it's usually Boney M I refer to first. Of course. I mean why would you not? Why would you not? But, but yeah, she's very good. And, the character is really good, but she feels like she's completely wasted. Because her scenes are so few and far between.
They really are. I mean, you basically just kind of get her by Alexei's bedside.
Yeah.
Shouting at the doctor a bit because he's not helping. And then there's that kind of hypnosis scene, isn't there?
That's right.
Where there's actually this incredible bit. One of my favourite bits from Christopher Lee is when he is hypnotising the Tsarina to get her to make Dr. Boris Zargo the new court physician. And he's like, he's put her under, right? So she's like hypnotized and asleep. And he's saying to Boris, like, you're going to be the new court physician. And Boris says something like, well, you can't do that. I've been struck off. And he's like, ha, that is nothing for me. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And he's sort of doing all this maniacal laughter. And
he's gone completely power mad at that point, hasn't he?
Completely. And Christopher Lee does this beautiful, like, switch with a literal click of the fingers because he's going, ha, 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 ha. And then he just sort of stops, straight face, clicks his fingers so that when she comes to, he's very sort of poised and, Rasputin, and how are you feeling, Tsarina, and all that kind of thing. It was so good.
In some ways, though, you kind of pointed out to me there, put into sharp relief why I'm slightly disappointed by this character. She's the Tsarina. She's in charge of the country while the Tsar's away. But all we get to see her as is a concerned mum and a victim of Rasputin.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Kev.
Such a shame, isn't it?
100%.
That had to happen. But hey, you know, we have to work with what we've got.
Yeah.
And this is what we've got. So I have a couple of other people to point out, the cast members,
please.
if I may, if you don't mind. I'll do it quickly.
Please.
There's an uncredited Brian Wilde, who was Foggy in Last of the Summer Wine, and the doomed Rand Hobart in Night of the Demon, a fantastic British horror film from 1957. He plays Vasily's father. You get a good look at him in the opening scene in the pub.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. There's an equally uncredited Lucy Fleming, who was later in the TV series Survivors. And she has a role, she's, I think, credited as Wide Eyes or something. And she's one of the women who visit Rasputin. She's right in the background. You have to really hunt high and low to find her. I knew she was in it, and trying to find her was a nightmare, but there she is.
Also, sorry, just before you move on to the next one, that scene where he's like opened his clinic and all the women come to visit him, again, I was howling.
Yeah, I thought you would be, because I remembered you really enjoyed the scene. Is it Curse of Frankenstein or Revenge of Frankenstein?
Revenge of Frankenstein.
When all the women are turning up and fawning over Frankenstein. It's kind of a little nod to that, really, isn't it?
It's so good. It definitely reminded me of that. The poor woman, she says something like, I've made my appointment. I've paid for my consultation. I insist on being seen. And then Rasputin comes out and he says, "You will be seen, madam." And he snatches his box of chocolates off her and says, "Stop eating like a pig and get more exercise."
Yeah. Chocolates play quite a large role in this film, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Well, I got one other person to point out to you. I'm guessing you missed him.
Oh.
Michael Ripper. Did you not spot Michael?
Oh, my God.
Okay, I'm playing with you here because you won't have spotted him, but he is in it, sort of. Bartlett Mullins plays a wagoner who gives Rasputin a ride.
Yes.
Playing the body, but that's not his voice. That voice belongs to Michael Ripper. I suspect possibly what happened was that, they needed to redub it because it was shot outside. It was shot out in Black Park.
Right.
Bartlett Mullins was an incredibly busy actor. He probably wasn't available to come back and say a few lines of dialogue, one morning. Michael Ripper was around. He was always around. He was always there. Yeah. He never went away. And so they just said, "Michael, would you dub these lines for us?" And so, the old pro that he was, absolutely. So we've got half a bingo point.
Half a bingo
point. You don't see him, but you hear Michael Ripper. There you go. There's my 3 additional names. Couldn't resist mentioning them.
I thought at one point you're going to be like, so there's the bit with the coach driver when he's got Rasputin. I'm like, yeah, and he goes, and Michael Ripper is one of the horses.
One of the horses, yeah. He played everything else in a Hammer film, so
exactly.
Why not play one of the horses? Yeah.
He plays the wagon.
And let's face it, if anyone could do it, Michael Ripper could have done it. The man was so bloody good, he could have played anything, frankly.
Exactly.
And I'd have watched it no matter what.
Let's chat a bit about the look of this film. We've said a couple of times that it's, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
We've got Michael Reed's cinematography and, again, the classic two-hander of Bernard Robinson on production design and Don Mingay on art direction. And I know that it's shot on the same sets as Prince of Darkness. But to their credit, I actually didn't sort of think, oh God, look, it's, Dracula's castle or whatever.
Sure.
Again, sort of coming back to this thing about, it didn't really capture the Russian court and stuff. I'm going to say it again. I kind of disagree with that. I thought that it really did feel a bit different, and they've managed in their, inimitable Hammer way to sort of squeeze gold out of nothing. It looks stunning again, this film.
Well, drawing a veil for the moment of the fact that you disagree with me. I mean, how dare you do not know who I am, etc., and so on. And to their credit, so the Hammer were doing this all the time. This is not the first time we've seen them reuse sets. And it's only a couple of moments where I noticed it. It's the bit where they're outside and there's the ice outside. And that was quite clearly the frozen moat that we saw at the end of Prince of Darkness.
Stupid frozen moat that I still don't really understand.
Oh, no, shush, you'll get into terrible trouble saying things like that. As I found to my cost.
Sorry.
Yeah, anyway.
Change my email address immediately.
Yeah, leave the country, just be quick. But just that, and sometimes I think if you watch enough Hammer films, you do recognise some of the props and the interior set. You think, aha, there it is, there's the one. There's the entrance to the pub, to the bar, which doesn't match the exterior of the bar, it has to be said. It doesn't quite line up. But the entrance where they come down the steps, there's like 2 flights of the steps.
Yes.
That's quite obviously this sort of the basement area of the castle that's been redressed. But it's so well done that you kind of notice it. You go, oh, yeah, and then you just carry on anyway.
And in fact, now you say that about the bar, that is the same bar that Father Shandor comes into and meets. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
So, it's all part of the Hammer magic that they were able. And don't forget that people weren't watching these 2 weeks apart.
No, exactly.
They were seeing them, maybe a few months apart, maybe even longer than that, maybe years apart. And so it's only because we've been watching them, and some of us have been watching them over and over, that we kind of start to recognise these things. So they were never meant to be seen the way we watch them nowadays.
No, the way we're doing it.
No, not at all. But it's a gorgeous looking film.
It is gorgeous. And I was going to say, to focus on Michael Reed's cinematography for a moment, I mean, we've talked about things like the red of Rasputin's sort of cassock, and, some of there's an amazing bit actually. Whenever you have him doing the hypnosis, these incredible tight close-ups on his face, and there's one bit where they're doing something funny with kind of filters or something, where it all looks a bit like you're looking at him kind of through a prism, as you're looking at him almost through the Tsarina's eyes, which I love.
That's right. Yeah, it was very clever. It's very sort of a shortcut, but it works.
Yeah.
That's the point, we've seen like a million times before. We're only one step away from, the screen going wibbly wobbly into a flashback sort of thing.
Do you remember when we did Shadow of the Cat? Yeah. We were talking about Bunky's POV.
That's right, yeah. We're in the same territory, but it works. So why would we complain about it?
I know, it's good.
I think, the photography is gorgeous throughout. The use of colour, like you say, we can thank the costume departments as well for that. But the lighting is perfect. The use of widescreen is amazing. That's where it comes closest to capturing the epic feel.
Yeah.
And also it's where we get the epic feel let down a bit for me. I wanted that widescreen frame filled a lot more. I wanted more going on in it. But it is beautifully done.
It almost sort of, as you say, with the budget and stuff, if we're talking about sets, if we're talking about extras, the amount of bodies in frame, etc. The wider you shoot it, it's almost sort of, I don't know, showing off the limitations slightly, I guess. But at the same time, I do agree. It's definitely, those are the shots when you do start to feel that grandeur a bit more.
And then you get, the widescreen works beautifully with that shot I mentioned earlier where Christopher Lee throws his arms out.
Oh my God.
It's that kind of semi-messianic pose, while he's threatening Sonia. And it's like, you wouldn't have been able to do that in a smaller frame. It wouldn't have worked. You needed to be that close to him to get the eye acting as well as the arms thrown out.
And also, I imagine that Christopher Lee's wingspan was pretty
To be fair, he could probably have knocked over most of the walls in Bray Studio, couldn't he? So knocking things flying, but they weren't at Bray at this point. But you know what I mean? He's like, back in the old day, I'm sure. But those of us who are very tall have to be so careful. We're not the sort of people that fling our arms about. We don't even dance very much, to be fair, because we could take someone's head off if we're not careful. So yeah, we have to be a little circumspect in those moments. But yeah, what a beautiful looking film, and that's what elevates it for me, is how gorgeous it looks. Everything about it is perfect. The costumes, the makeup, the hair, the sets, the photography. Stunning looking film.
It is stunning. While we're on the subject of makeup, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned at the beginning of the chat, Kev, that it's a little bit questionable about whether this even is a horror film, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we're arguing that it is a horror film.
Yep.
Where does that come from in the film? Is it that there is a supernatural element, I think, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. When Rasputin is drawing the fever out of the innkeeper's wife at the beginning, when he is healing Alexei after his fall, is there something there that you see as that being, he talks when he's being kind of excommunicated and run out of town by the local religious man, the priest or whatever he is. He said, Rasputin sort of gives this very grandiose kind of proclamation, I've got this power within me, given to me by God, and I will use it however I please. Do you see it that he has a supernatural power?
I see that he has a supernatural power, but not that one.
Okay.
It's the hypnotism for me. Is supernatural. We can't hypnotise people like that. Can you imagine what the real world would be like if people could hypnotise each other that way? It'd be absolute mayhem, wouldn't it? So for me, it is. I think with the healing powers that he thinks he's got, I think he believes he's got them. I just think he's a bit of an opportunist.
Yeah.
And I think he was quite a clever man. He'd probably read a lot more than most people had at the time. Even the Tsar and the Tsarina probably weren't as well read as Rasputin might have been. And so he was able to spot what was wrong with the kid. Mm-hmm. It's Alexei, isn't it? It's the boy?
Alexei, yeah.
Alexei, yeah. And it's like, well, maybe he just found a way to... He spotted what was wrong. He just sort of engineered this accident in the first place. He presumably read up on it. He was staying with a doctor. The doctor would have had books. Mm-hmm. He would have read up on this. How can I heal this boy? And I suspect he was a bit more of a chancer. But you could be right. I think that's the interesting thing about this film is you could read it either way and it works.
Well, and in some ways that literally kind of mirrors what happened in real life, right? Some people believed that he was this mystic.
That's right.
And some people believed that he was an absolute charlatan. So
exactly. And I think it was I know it was in his interest to have people believe he was a mystic.
Of course.
And he made them frightened of him. And so he could control them better. And, you don't quite get that sort of underlined and in flashing lights here in the film, but it's in there. It's in the film. It's just quite subtle and underplayed a little bit. Maybe underplayed a little bit too much, perhaps, but it would have been nice if one of the boys had mentioned it, sort of like, do you think he has these powers? No, he's just, I think he does. No, I think he's,
Yeah, I mean, that strikes me as the sort of conversation that people in the real world would have been having about him,
Oh, absolutely they would. Yeah, they'd have all been gossiping. There's a lovely couple of supporting characters, aren't there? Those women in the pub who we kind of, I think we're meant to believe are prostitutes, but we're not entirely sure. Like when they first see Rasputin in the pub, one of them goes, do you fancy him? And I can imagine them being a right pair of gossips. I can imagine them having a chat about, as the film goes on, they could have played this sort of weird Greek chorus popping in every so often to comment on what was going on, So, have you heard what he's up to now?
Yeah.
Do you think he really did it? That kind of thing, it would have been, that'd have been quite amusing.
That bit is also incredible. And I was like, again, ladies, I'm with you, because she goes, do you fancy him? And she goes, what? And she goes, do you fancy him? And she goes, well, he's big, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he is, love. He absolutely is, yeah.
Oh, when you get lines like, he's big, isn't it? You can hear Freud rolling in his grave, It's like, oh, look, they're stealing my ideas here for this sort of thing, It's like, we know exactly what you mean there, missus. That's great. Yeah, okay, we get it. We're not that stupid, honestly.
We mentioned earlier about poor old Boris moving all his beakers out the way during the fight scene.
Yeah.
And one of them being quite obviously signposted as being a jar of acid.
Oh, yes.
This comes back to poor old Peter during the scene, which I would argue is the most horror scene of the film.
Yeah.
Because Rasputin, what a dick, right? After poor Sonia has been thrown to one side. And in fact, it's this that causes Boris to wash his hands of the whole situation and kind of turn his attentions to Rasputin's destruction is he literally tells Sonia to go and kill herself.
That's right. And in fact, they did actually shoot a sequence showing Sonia killing herself, but it was never going to fly with the censors, so they had to remove
we
it.
see the aftermath,
and that's
don't
pretty
we?
nasty. That's another horror moment.
It's really nasty to see Barbara Shelley, you know, dead on the floor with her wrists cut.
Basically bleeding to death, or she's gone at that point. You know, it's quite a horrible, shocking moment, and that was enough. I don't think we needed to have seen her cutting her wrists, but they did. They thought they could get away with it. Censors were not happy with this film. I'll talk about that in a minute, but they were not pleased with this.
But Peter then goes to get his revenge on Rasputin, and this is really, for me, as I say, the sort of central like horror set piece. Is he sort of lets himself into this pitch black room, and all you can hear from the shadows is Rasputin's kind of mocking voice.
Yeah.
And obviously it's Christopher Lee's voice. So it's this deep kind of, like resonant kind of echoing voice mocking, Peter and Sonia. And there's this amazing shot where his face kind of comes out of the shadows, and you just see it kind of spotlit on his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he sort of retreats again.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful and scary, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he attacks Peter with the acid. And then when Peter sort of stumbles out into the light, I thought that Roy Ashton's makeup is remarkable, actually. The sort of acid burns on Peter's face.
Yeah, I think a lot of the film sort of is more of a kind of psychological horror film, not in the sense of the psychological horrors that we've been talking about over the past month or two, but it's more to do with the sort of the callousness and brutality of Rasputin.
Yeah.
And his twisted psychology.
Yeah.
It's moments like the acid attack where we say, yes, no, it is a Hammer film, isn't it? It is a Hammer film. This is a proper Hammer film. Really quite a nasty moment, that.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, we get to see Peter outside in the snow where he sort of dies at the end.
Oh, my God. That is the performance.
Terrific.
From Dinsdale Landon at that point is because he is literally, he's playing being on the absolute verge of death. Obviously, he's got these horrific burns on his face.
Yeah.
And Ivan is he's speaking to Ivan, but he can barely open his mouth.
Yeah.
And so we can't even really hear what he's saying. And that moment between Peter and Ivan is horrific and heartbreaking as Peter's trying to say to him, you know, it was Rasputin.
That's right, yeah.
And
he holds on long enough, doesn't he, to implicate Rasputin.
Exactly. And it's that moment that after Ivan being all through the film saying, I'll help to bring him down, but I will not murder him. I will not commit murder. That is the important turning point when he finds out that it's Rasputin who is responsible for his best friend's horrific death.
Yeah.
That he picks, you know, it is then that he takes up the gun and sort of finishes him off.
A terrific performance by Francis Matthews. You can actually see the scales falling from his eyes.
Yes.
As he realises, this man's taken me for a ride.
Yeah.
I've been a sucker. I should have listened to Peter. I should have known. But, you know, it's really quite a heartbreaking moment. Yeah, like you say, that sort of, it's almost like he's trying to sort of implicate Rasputin and say his last goodbyes at the same time.
Yeah. But really as I say, you know, it's really sad. He's just so unable. Like, he's using literally his last, like, vestiges of strength just before he dies to kind of...
I always think that, you know, the acid got into his mouth and has burned his tongue away.
Yeah.
That's how he plays it, you know, that it's so ravaged his head that it's burned his tongue, it's in his throat, and that's why he's dying. Oh, poor guy. As Hammer horror deaths go, it's one of the nastiest ones. It's one of the most lingering.
Yeah.
Takes a while to happen. Yeah. So maybe losing the suicide scene, we got this instead.
Right. Right.
You know, maybe, you know, the censors, I can imagine saying, all right, you can have one, you can't have both.
Yeah.
It's a kind of trade-off they used to do all the time, you know?
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. You know, that aftermath of Sonia's suicide is quite enough. Thank you very much. We don't need to see her actually
we didn't need
going
to see her
through with
suffering.
The act, you know? Yeah, exactly. The suffering.
No, we cared too much about all these characters. Peter is bad enough seeing him suffer. To have seen Sonia suffer as well would have been sadism bordering on almost Rasputin level sadism.
Yeah, just too grim. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's only so much we can take on a Saturday night down the Odeon, isn't there?
Let's talk about this assassination and the death.
Yeah.
They say that Rasputin is kind of this glutton, right? Sort of, and you get that very much through the film, not just for food, but like he's a glutton for power, he's a glutton for drink, he's a glutton for sex, right? He's this
absolutely
very sort of gluttonous, larger than life, ravenous character.
Enough is never enough for Rasputin, is it?
Exactly. Yeah, thank goodness he never got hold of the, what's it called? The Hellraiser box.
Oh, God, yeah, the lament configuration, yeah.
The lament configuration, thank God.
Boy, God. Now, there's a bit of fan fiction. Rasputin is brought back, and he's brought back by the Pinheads, his crew, the Cenobites, and he's given the lament configuration. Go, off you go. Come on, let's get that written.
Would watch.
Oh, absolutely.
So Boris and Ivan basically come up with this plan. Ivan is going to use Vanessa as kind of bait, right? Not literally. They don't actually, use her physically and sort of put her somewhere as bait, but he uses the idea of her, the promise of her to Rasputin.
Which, of course, now explains why she's in the film now, of course. When you were saying earlier that she doesn't get a lot to do, now, of course, it just occurred to me, having seen this film several times, that's why she's in the film.
Oh.
Because we need her to be the bait at the end. We need her to be the one to dangle in front of Rasputin.
We do. I still don't think it explains why she literally just disappears halfway through it, but...
Oh, no. The simple explanation for that is that Tony Hines didn't know what to do with her, but that's too prosaic. Carry on.
Just need her for this device, which slightly underplays her, I think, but okay, fine. Here he goes.
It does.
Again, I was going to talk about this in my favourite bits, but it's quite natural to do it now. This scene from Francis Matthews' Ivan is so good. He turns up to Rasputin and he is laying it on thick, Kev. He's like, he comes in and he goes, he's sort of put on this quite, almost sort of, I don't know, fey character. He sort of comes in and he's like, oh, it's so lovely to see your rooms. Oh, this is charming. And he's sort of going around and like taking ornaments out of the cabinet.
That's right.
Like, charming. It's so funny.
It's weird. Francis Matthews is such a good actor and Ivan isn't.
Right.
He's playing a character who cannot act to save his life, and that's really how good Francis Matthews was, I think. He was such a great actor, but his character couldn't act to save his life.
It's so funny. And Rasputin's face, like, the whole way through it, he's like, who the fuck is this dude and what is he doing here? So he goes in, Ivan, and he basically says... I've noticed, or I've heard rumor that you have designs upon Vanessa. You'll need to do something for me. I've got this ambition of, being the kind of military attaché and all this kind of thing. And I believe that you can make that happen. And so he lures him to, I guess it's his house, where Boris is waiting. Dr. Boris Zargo is waiting. Dr. Boris Zargo has poisoned the chocolates.
Yep.
And the wine. And the idea is that they will poison Rasputin. And So they get him in. He turns up in the greatest outfit I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
Which is this bright red, sort of ensemble that he's been wearing, and this huge coat, which obviously Christopher Lee looks incredible in, and the biggest Russian fur hat you've ever seen in your life.
It's brilliant. I think it's very clever as well that they use that costuming as a kind of indicator of just how far Rasputin has fallen, in a way. He's gone from being this humble monk in this kind of very ordinary clothing to being this quite extravagantly dressed fop, this dandy. And he hadn't cut his hair. He hadn't found time to have a haircut in the meantime, but he hadn't even washed it by the looks of it. But his outward refinements have improved to reflect his perceived status now. Yeah. As a member of the cause. He's not really, but he believes he is.
Absolutely.
Very clever bit of costuming, that.
Well, what's really clever is exactly what you said there, Kev, which is his perceived status. But as you say, his character has actually fallen kind of morally deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Which, not to lay it on too thick, but the Russian oligarchs could do with watching this film, if you ask me.
Yeah, say no more, but yeah.
Some lessons to be learned. Cough, cough,
cough. Cough, definitely. Well, that's it then. So we can't go to America now. We can't go to Russia. Right, okay, we're running out of countries we can go to because we keep saying things.
And this is where you get this kind of prolonged sequence of Rasputin's death, because Ivan leaves him alone with the chocolates and the wine, which, after initially being quite cautious about, I suppose, suspicious of.
Bit wary of, yeah.
And then has a bit of an attack. You think, oh, they've got him, brilliant. But then when Boris comes back down, Rasputin is still alive, and you get this really scary, menacing moment where he is crawling along the ground towards Boris, sort of still very red in the face from, the poison and stuff. But he's, absolutely kind of advancing on him with murder in his eyes. And then I think Boris shoots him.
Stabs him?
No, Boris gets him with the rest of the poison from the syringe, doesn't he?
Of course, that's right. He stabs him with the syringe. That's right.
Stabs him with the syringe. So now he's got loads more poison in him.
Yeah.
But Rasputin manages to get Boris in the back with a dagger.
That's right. Yep.
I would say that Christopher Lee's death scene in this is maybe only second to his death scene as Dracula in the original Dracula film, because he really dies hard when you think he's dying.
Yeah, and he should have been even harder, because they spent 3 days shooting this epic fight scene between Christopher Lee and Francis Matthews.
Oh!
And it was going to sort of rage on and on, his final scene. Don Sharp had to leave the production during editing to go to something else, and was slightly dismayed, as he did with Francis Matthews, who was really quite upset, to find that Anthony Hines had actually cut most of it. And so we just get this kind of slightly smaller, well, rather very much smaller scale fight sequence. Originally, it was much more brutal, went on for a lot longer, because they were trying to sell this idea that Rasputin was incredibly hard to kill.
Right.
He was taking everything that Ivan had got to actually best this man, because he was almost superhuman. But yeah, a lot of that was kind of cut out. It was gone.
How interesting.
Why? I don't know, because it was shot. It wasn't costing them any more money. Just leave it in there. So who knows? Maybe
that's weird. That is weird.
Hopefully that's in a vault somewhere and they can go and find that. And,
that'd be nice. That would be good. Come on, Hammer. Do us a beautiful release of Rasputin the Mad Monk, please.
With the director's cut on it. Come on, we need it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And yes, so Boris is down. He's had a dagger between the shoulder blades. And poor Ivan has just seen Peter die. He's been told that it's Rasputin that's done it. And so he comes in, he shoots him, he falls out the window. Credits, basically.
Yeah.
Now, I would have personally loved, and maybe this is just because I've seen Halloween one too many times.
Yeah.
But you go from him falling out the window and landing on the ice below. You come back into the room and Ivan kind of cradling Boris. Mm-hmm. And then you go back out the window before the credits start rolling. And Rasputin's still there, obviously, on the ice outside the window.
Sure.
I wanted him to be gone.
Yes. Rasputin 2. That would have been good, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Rasputin 2. Boney M. Boogaloo.
Rasputin 2. He's back and he's even more of a bastard than he ever was.
This time it's personal.
This time it's personal, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. When he went through that window, my first thought was, and even this time it was like, oh, I can hear the Halloween theme playing.
Yeah.
You know, it was tinkling away in my head when he went out the window. But, yeah, I think they had a problem with that final shot anyway, from what I understand. I think it was in the script. I'm not sure they shot it, but apparently Rasputin was going to die making the benediction sign with his hand over his face. You know, I believe that's the one where the thumb and two fingers are held up.
Okay.
And the little finger and the ring finger are down. Mm-hmm. And it's a benediction sign. But they either didn't film it or they did film it, decided not to use it because it was a little bit religiously sensitive.
Yeah, okay.
And they thought that, you know, maybe this is going to alienate people who are already quite alienated enough, thank you very much, by all the sex and violence. Let's not make it worse, you know. So it is, in a way, though, it had to end that way because it's a story of Rasputin.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we knew he was going to die. But I know what you mean. There is that little bit of you that thinks,
It's my horror brain. You know, as the camera went back out the window, I was just fully expecting it to be an empty space and it would be like, oh my God, you really can't kill him. Where's he gone? But no, there he was.
And a dying Boris says, was he the boogeyman?
Yeah.
And Ivan said, yes, as a matter of fact, I think he was. Yeah. Perfect. There you go. Another mashup for all you fan fiction writers. Get on it. Start taking this advice now before we start charging you for it.
Exactly.
All right? You're getting it free at the moment.
Before we start copyrighting this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Hammer, if you want to do a remake of it, you know, we've got these great ideas about how you can get a sequel out of it. Come and talk to us.
Yeah, come on. Come on. Before we chat about our favourite moments, you've mentioned a couple of times about kind of the censors, and obviously we've been talking a lot about, you know, the sex and the violence and that kind of thing. What went on there? Well,
as you know, because we mentioned this before, Hammer would send their scripts to the censors beforehand for approval.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't want to start shooting things at the censors where they're going to say no chance. That happened. But, you know, they wanted to minimise it. They sent it in, and the censors were not happy when they read that script. Frank Crofts, who was one of their main readers at the time, he said, it is the usual nasty Hammer stuff with the emphasis on bleeding stumps. Which is not quite true, because there's one bleeding stump, but that's about it, really. And a second reader, fantastically named Newton Branch.
Ooh.
Sounds like a railway station somewhere in Norfolk or something, doesn't it? But Newton Branch, he said, the Rasputin story is a natural, full of strangeness, sex and horror, and it's a pity that Hammer played a fool with it in this squalid fashion. We should not be lenient. So they'd taken against it right from the start, and they even John Trevelyan, who was the secretary, and the great stories of these running battles with John Trevelyan and James Carreras, who was the managing director at Hammer. But even he wrote back to them and said, discretion both in the film's sex and violence, telling them what they could show. We do not like script directions such as, equally suddenly she gives in and thrusts her whole body to him, searching for his lips with open mouth. Blimey. Matron. But they didn't like that at all. And there were still plenty of cuts. They didn't like the acid throwing scene. That had to be trimmed. It was originally a lot nastier. The suicide scene, obviously, that was gone. But they do get away with some sexy moments. Surprised me a little bit when in the first seduction scene with the innkeeper's daughter.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of heavy breathing going on, which you didn't get in British films at the time. People didn't move and they didn't breathe while they were having sex.
They are really going for it, like rolling around in that hay, I must say.
They are, yeah, and they're quite clearly enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
Until sort of I can't understand women. She decides she doesn't want to once her boyfriend gets his hand lopped off. What's the matter with her? You know, does she
honestly, fickle.
Bloody women, you know. But then, of course, you know, Rasputin shows his true colours and tries to rape her. And all these scenes were troublesome to the censors. They didn't like it one little bit. And there is a kind of feeling that the film was compromised even further by these censor cuts. You can almost feel them being reined back in. Yeah,
you can feel that. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, as I say, there was plenty in it to get me going, but, you know.
Yeah. But I think, you know, we could have had more.
Could have had more.
But would it have worked? You know, if they'd done it in the way of a modern film where very little is left to the imagination, I don't know whether that would have been as much fun in a lot of ways. You know, it's like I say, we have to work with what we've got.
Exactly that.
And it is flawed, but it has its moments. So now we should talk about some of those moments.
Let's talk about some moments.
Let's talk about some of those moments.
So we've spoken about a couple of mine already. Firstly, Boris trying to keep all his glass beakers out of the way during the fight, which I thought was hilarious. And Ivan's scene when he comes in, all the charmings. I just thought it was incredible. I absolutely love Francis Matthews' performance in that. I am, it turns out, such a fan of Francis Matthews.
He's great, isn't he? He's so good.
He's so great.
So good. Yeah. Very underrated.
Yeah. I'd never heard of him before I started watching all these Hammer films. And
right.
Big fan.
Now you've signed up to the fan club.
I have indeed.
Excellent.
So, yeah, just a couple more from me. First one's very early on, which is an incredible line delivery from Christopher Lee. So after he has brought the innkeeper's wife back from the brink of death by drawing her fever out of her and into his hands.
Yeah.
He barks at her. Open your eyes, woman. You're cured.
Fantastic.
I'm like, what incredible bedside manner you have, Rasputin. It's so good.
He's such a charmer, isn't he?
It's like someone stayed in an NHS ward at some point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the other one, oh my God, this might be, for my money, the sexiest moment in the entire film. And it is so well done. So once he has completely seduced Sonia, she's taken all her clothes off, gotten herself into bed. Now, you do see a bit of Barbara Shelley's sort of bare back. She's still got her sort of under shift on.
That's right, yeah.
But he opens the top of it, and you can kind of see from her back sort of down to, I guess, you know, the top of her bum, I suppose. And then Barbara Shelley expertly gets herself into bed without flashing anything at the camera and pulls the covers up, you know, under her armpits. Then Rasputin comes over and he sort of lowers himself on top of her. And what you see is him tear the covers off of her and then throw them directly at the camera / directly at us.
Yeah.
And all in this incredible movement and motion where you get this sense that she is suddenly naked beneath him.
Yeah.
But you don't actually see it because it's covered by him throwing the blanket at the camera. I was like, excuse me, this is masterfully done. I loved it.
It's so clever. It's a clever way to solve an age-old problem, isn't it? How you cut away from the sex scene. Yeah. Really, really well done. Beautiful.
And it really retains that kind of that passion and the sort of the slightly, I don't know, the sort of aggressive nature of the union that they're about to have, I think.
And the way,
you know, and I don't necessarily mean that, you know, you should be titillated by the fact that she's sort of under his thrall at this moment. But very much this idea that, as we already know, that Sonia is a woman who is maybe a little more open to having, you know, sexual relations and all that kind of thing in this much more sort of repressed, uptight society. She likes a drink, she likes a dance, etc., etc. I just think that it manages to capture actually that she does have some kind of passion involved in this moment. Yeah. Whether that is entirely consensual because of the hypnosis, but it's just this very kind of dramatic and kind of quite jaw-dropping moment. I thought it was amazing.
And I like the way it excludes us from the moments as well.
Yeah.
It's like Rasputin saying, right, you've seen enough, goodbye. I've titillated you just enough. You can't see any more.
It's dismissive of us, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's like, you can be gone now. We're busy. Go away.
It's great.
It's really good. They're all superb choices. They're excellent. Yeah.
How about you?
We mentioned one. It's worth mentioning again, Barbara Shelley going feral. As she did so brilliantly. Fantastic. But there's three other little moments. One's a fairly big moment. The first one is when Rasputin is being chastised by the church council near the start, and they're outlining all his sins and his wayward behaviour and all the rest of it, and say he's not very godly, is it? And Christopher Lee has this beautiful line: when I go to confession, I don't offer God small sins, petty squabbles, jealousies. I offer him sins worth forgiving.
Cool.
And I think that sums up Rasputin in one line of dialogue. He's not going to do anything by halves, is he? He's living life to the full, even though he shouldn't.
It's wrong that I find that really hot, isn't it?
It is wrong, but hey, who am I to judge? Yeah, you weirdo. But yeah. I'm not here to judge you pervert, but couple of smaller parts, smaller scenes. I love. It makes me laugh out loud the way when Rasputin goes to see Alexei, and he's poor old little Alexei's lying in bed, Tsarina's son, and Christopher Lee's so huge that when he puts his hands on his face, he completely engulfs his whole head. He's like one squeeze and he could have crushed the life out of that boy, and it's hilarious to watch, but also the implications are quite scary as well.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
But flat out.
Again, I mean, I can't handle Christopher Lee's big hands. I just can't handle it. Why? This film.
You're going to need a little lie down in a moment, aren't you?
Honestly,
we're getting near the end. One moment is very, very funny, makes me laugh every time, is a drunken Peter trying to Cossack dance.
Oh my God, it's brilliant.
And when he sort of picks himself up on the table, he kind of looks around and says, what are we doing here? He's so drunk, and Ivan says to him, well, you suggested it. We've all had nights like that where it's like, what are we doing here? It was your idea, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I think that plugged in perfectly to a section of the audience who would have recognised that immediately. We've all been on a bender like that, haven't we? Yeah, well done, Peter. We haven't all tried to Cossack dance as badly as he does, but there you go.
God, if I tried to Cossack dance on top of a table, I would kill myself, I think.
Now, he literally would at my age. I mean, I can barely stand up, let alone Cossack dance. Dear God, it would really kill me off. So,
I'd fall off and just crumble into dust.
Just everybody listening, if we're ever out anywhere, and I don't drink very much these days, but if I've started having a few drinks and I've started to get keep an eye on me so I don't start Cossack or any other kind of dancing, because honestly, it's not going to end well for me at my age, okay? It really isn't. So I'm putting all that on you lot. Got to look after
Although, as we were talking about earlier, if you are going to film it, make sure you do it in landscape so you can get the whole thing in.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, always in landscape. Absolutely right.
Okay, so we know that this is the double bill with...
This was with the reptile.
The reptile, okay, which we haven't talked about yet.
We're going to do that next week, I believe, yes.
We'll do that next week. So what did, audiences think of Rasputin the Mad Monk?
I think they were okay with it. It turned a profit. We know it turned a profit because 20th Century Fox have published their box office takes for, back to year dot almost. So we know it turned a profit. It did okay. I don't think it did quite as well as Dracula, Prince of Darkness and Plague of the Zombies.
I think that's understandable.
It's understandable. It had the double attraction of Christopher Lee back playing Dracula after, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And zombies, which weren't a sort of an overdone monster at that point. So they were kind of quite an unusual thing. So it's quite a good draw, that double bill.
Big
this
time.
One, I think, slightly harder. are we going to go and see a horror film, or is it a historical drama?
Yeah.
And the critics didn't like it at all, so they sort of slammed it, so that didn't help it much. But it still made a profit. It still worked well for Hammer. It did exactly what they wanted it to do.
Yeah. Well, honestly, as we've said before, what do film critics know anyway?
What did you describe yourself as earlier? I forget. It'll come back to me in a minute.
Yeah, rather knowingly, I should say. Okay. How about for us? Kev, where in our rankings, elite, upper, middle or lower, does Rasputin come for you?
I think I've enjoyed talking about it more than I enjoy watching it. I'll be honest with you. I've had a lot of fun talking about it. It's been, I hope everybody's enjoyed it as much as I have, and you've enjoyed it as much as I have. But I thought this was quite an interesting talk about it. But whether that made the film go up in my estimation, I don't know. I'm going to say it's middle for me. It's far too well made to be lower, but it's certainly not up there with the upper ones for me. It's not up there with, Plague of the Zombies, which is elite, I know, but it's not that kind of good.
No.
It's kind of, for me, it's just a bit sort of, as the young people say, I believe, it's a bit meh. Do young people say that? My apologies if you don't. I'm a little bit behind. I'm an old man. I don't keep up. But for me, it's just kind of, it's a well-made film. It's entertaining, but I don't know I ever want to watch it again.
Fair. Absolutely fair. I definitely like it more than you. It's going in upper.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was perfect. It's not nudging elite.
Sure.
But I would say it is firmly in upper for me. And I could very much see myself coming back and rewatching it. Maybe. I
mean, we have to add the caveat that you are seriously turned on by Christopher Lee in this film, which is probably the reason why it's got up a level.
It does help. So, it does help, yeah.
It does help. Helps no end. Of course it does.
Thanks for listening to Hammer Time. Next week, we'll be back in Cornwall with director John Gilling, this time facing another of Hammer's iconic female monsters, the Reptile from 1966. If you're watching along, you can find it on VOD, and it's part of that classic Hammer box set from Studio Canal. To check out the full list of movies we'll be covering throughout the podcast, you can head to evolutionofhorror.com/hammer. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us questions or comments for upcoming mailbag episodes. Drop us an email to hammer@evolutionofhorror.com. You can follow the Evolution of Horror Network on Instagram at EOH_network and on BlueSky at Evolution of Horror. You can follow me on Instagram and BlueSky at Bunny Darke, and I'm on Letterboxd as Becky Darke. And Kev, where can people find you and your work online? EOFFTV on BlueSky, Twitter, Facebook. I'm also as Kevin Lyons on Facebook, Instagram and Letterboxd. And you can see my website, the Encyclopedia of Fantastic Film and Television, at EOFFTV.com. And if you search for EOFFTV, God, it's a mouthful, isn't it? It's an abbreviation, isn't it? EOFFTV Review. Search for that. You'll find all my reviews on there. Perfect. Don't forget to rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. Thank you for listening, and join us again next week for another episode of Hammer Time.